G'day. First thing I have for you is just a little bit of something strange that I saw while I was looking through the Daily Mail. I don't think there's anything dodgy or untoward about it, but it's just the strangest thing you've ever seen. Well, that I've ever seen on a football field. Watch the way that this guy gets up off the ground after sliding for a catch. He misses the catch. I think that's called an incomplete pass. And then look, here you go. Look at the way, look at the way he stands up. It's remarkable. Very, very strange indeed. I've watched it over and over, and it's just strange, strange.
When you're strange, faces come out of the rain. When you're strange, no one remembers your name. When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange.
And now I've got a collection of videos that I recommend you check out. They're quite interesting. I've just taken some audio from each of them, just some snippets, and put them together so that they'll give you an idea of what they're talking about in each vid. And if you like the idea of what they're talking about, please go and check them out.
Been looking into it for a couple of months, and how it came about was that Parsons Green event, I decided to concentrate then on researching just the 5G technology instead of the stage events. But then I found out just days before the Parsons Green event that the BBC had upgraded their equipment to this new tech dialogue technology. Now, this was the same equipment that Airbus was going to be using to showcase the 5G technology, which they announced just prior to the Parsons Green event. So Airbus had been given a contract by the European Space Agency and the European Defence Agency to utilise new equipment on a worldwide basis to demonstrate these new telecommunications for the multimedia purposes, so to streamline better connectivity to live events. Now, the document that I found stated that it was going to be happening over 2 years and involve 14 different countries. And obviously, if anyone wants to go more in detail about this stuff, you just look at my videos and you can see what I'm talking about. So straight away, I thought that is not a coincidence. If they're rolling out this new tech dialogue technology and the BBC is just upgraded to it, they need to start showcasing, and this is what it is. Now, I believe that the connection to the European Space Agency was included in that setup because Parsons Green happened right about the time as the reported spacecraft Cassini was supposedly. So when I looked at the pictures of the bucket bomb, to me it was a crude depiction of the same thing. It just looked like, well, they were basically having a laugh at our expense, weren't they? They like to take the piss out of us. So that was what first made me realise that this technology was being showcased. Now, so that prompted me to look at other events that had gone on, other stage events. Then I found that in February 2015, Cisco signed up with the French government to cover Paris as a smart city, and then a few months later, we had the Paris attacks. Then in Belgium, we signed up, and then we had the truck attack. And in Brussels, the digital commissioner had called a meeting to ask the 10 largest telecom groups to speed up and implement the 5G. And then a month later, Brussels attack happened in March 2016. And then in Manchester in July, 2 phone companies announced that they're trialling 5G. Then we've got an stage attack in Manchester. And then the Las Vegas, and they were discussing tests in a pilot area for security in a real-life environment, and also for the autonomous cars and people profiling. Of course, and then we have the stage event at Las Vegas.
And this is all we hear in the sermonizing of the New World. What is important is right human relations. What is important is that we accept one another as we are. And it goes on and on and on and on. But faithfulness to God, biblical principles, no, they have to be given up. Share International says, but the day will dawn when the vision of the United Nations will save the world, and when the reality of the United Nations starts bearing fruit, then the breath of immortality will be a living reality on earth. And there is the spiritual leader of or the present priest, if you like, in the United Nations, the Hindu Sri Chinmoy. He says the United Nations is the way to oneness that leads to the supreme oneness, capitalized. It is like a river flowing towards the source, the ultimate source. And the United Nations becomes for us the answer to world suffering, world darkness, world ignorance. The inner vision of the United Nations is the gift supreme. And this will be realized no matter how many years it takes. The Dalai Lama says in the sphere of international relations, the sense of greater shared responsibility is particularly needed. Today, when the world is becoming increasingly interdependent, the dangers of irresponsible behavior have dramatically increased. Unless we realize that we now are part of one big human family, we cannot hope to bring about peace and happiness. So all the world leaders are saying these things. And the United Nations, with its symbolism of this ancient laurel wreath around a globe, is nothing other than the emulation of an old pagan ideal, which Lucifer once more wants to realize in the world that we live in today.
So they play these games over long periods of time. World War I, Stalin was a Jesuit. He was handled by a Jesuit. Lenin, when he came over with Trotsky, he was trained in the Bronx. He ran a Jesuit newspaper in the Bronx. They put him in sealed trains and ran over to Russia with $5 million of gold, and that's when they started World War I. So that was a communist introduction and a test. World War II, Himmler was a black pope. He assassinated the other black pope. They didn't have a black pope for a while, but he took over power. He was the one that worked with Rome. They foist these wars, and then they play both sides of it. And if you go back in time, they fomented the first 30 Years' War in Central Europe in 1618 to 1648. They killed over 150,000 Irish Protestants in 1641 to 1649. 1685, they killed over 500,000 French Protestant Huguenots. They were behind the French Revolution in Croatia during World War.
With Napoleon as their hammer, right?
Right, and when he turned on them is when they exiled him. And in Croatia, the Croatian War, the Catholic state, over 700,000 men and women and children perished. And Mike, I think I was listening into one of your shows where you read that the fourth vow of the Jesuits.
That was Kara St. Louis, yeah.
So this is just part of their oath they take in what's called the fourth vow. And just like the Freemasons, where the first three degrees are very humanitarian and help all and really do well, if you look at the oath of the Freemasons, it dovetails perfectly with many of the other oaths that are taken in these secret societies, but they all come from this one oath of the Jesuits. And the part of it goes like this, quote, "I furthermore promise and declare that I will, when opportunity present, make and wage relentless war, secret or openly, against all heretics, Protestants, and liberals, as I am directed to do so, to exterminate them from the face of the whole earth, and that I will spare neither age, sex, or condition, and that I will hang, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up their stomachs and wombs of their women, and crush their infants' heads against the walls, in order to annihilate forever their execrable race, that when the same cannot be done openly, I will secretly use the poisoned cup, the strangulating cord, the steel of the poniard, or the leaden bullet, regardless of the honor of rank, dignity, or authority of the person or persons, whatever may be their condition in life, either public or private, as I at any time may be directed to do so by the agent of the Pope or superior of the Brotherhood of the Holy Faith of the Society of Jesus. In confirmation of which I hereby dedicate my life, soul, and all corporal powers, and with the dagger which I now receive, I will subscribe my name written in my blood in testimony thereof, and should I prove false or weaken in my determination, may my brethren and fellow soldiers of the militia of the Pope cut off my hands and feet and my throat, and cut my throat from ear to ear, my belly opened and sulfur burned therein, and with all the punishment that can be inflicted upon me on earth, and my soul shall be tortured by demons in eternal hell forever.
Pleasant.
Lovely, right?
It's great.
That they dedicate their life to the Pope, and they become agents, and they will do whatever the Pope tells them to do without question. That's their blood oath.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I was in a show recently with Sophia Smallstorm.
I'm going to tell you about one of my cases. This is the John Van Meter case. On Halloween 2004, John Van Meter, a woodsman from Wisconsin, had attended a conference in Sonoma County, California. And after the conference, he was driving home, and he saw 5 or 6 automobiles, black automobiles, with people in them, driving into the woods. He did a U-turn and came back, and a safe distance from what was taking place, he could see a fire. He could see a girl in the nude tied against a tree. And most of the people there were in the nude. And he said, this is not right. So somebody shot at him. And he got his gun out. Being a woodsman, he carried a gun. And he shot back. Long story short, he shot and killed 4 of them, broke up the ceremony, and rescued the girl, carried her over and put her in the car. The others scattered, and he chased the leader into the woods and shot and killed him. And when he was chasing the leader through the woods, they had a running conversation, and the leader said, we have the police and the FBI in our hip pocket here. If you kill me, you'll live in a 10 by 10 cell the rest of your life. So John ends up reporting to the police, Sonoma County, and goes back home. And they filed charges against him, claiming that he filed a false report. And they waited 4 days to go out into the woods and search the area. The police did. And the attorney says, don't come back here. It's corrupt. Law enforcement's corrupt. You'll end up serving time. The attorney worked out a deal. He goes back to Wisconsin in April the 19th, 2006, a year and a half later. And he, 2 fellas come out, drive out, park the car, get out, and he hears one of them say, he's mine. He has another gun battle. He knocks one of them down 4 times, the other one down twice. And they had enough, they took off. He goes to the police, and he tells the police what happened. And they say, he shot himself. He was shot 9 times with 6 different weapons. His pickup truck had 25 bullets in it, and he shot himself. He's placed on probation, and during the 1-year probation out of Wisconsin, somebody planted a marijuana plant in his garden. Obviously, they wanted the probation officer to find it. The probation officers came by regularly, searched his home without a search warrant, looking for guns, looking for booze. You can't have either one. And then last February the 6th, his house burned to the ground early in the morning. Weapons. I have a copy of the letter here that the girl wrote. By the way, she's in hiding. She changed her name several times. Yeah, she was kidnapped. She was kidnapped out of a parking lot in Oakland. 4 guys came at her in daylight and shot her in the thigh with a needle. She lost consciousness, and they put her in a van. Okay, I'm the woman from the satanic cult abduction case on Halloween. I'm scared to death of them finding out who I am, so I'm not.
So check those videos out. They're very, very interesting, very informative. Some of that stuff you'll probably already know, but some of it will surprise you. Yeah. Anyway, bye.